Well, good morning. I'm so glad you're here today. I hope you're glad you're here today. This is a great day to be here, by the way, because today we're kicking off a brand new message series. It's always good to be at the start. And we do a lot of message series around here, and what that means is we sort of pick a topic or a theme or a section of the Bible, and we kind of cover it for a few weeks, say everything we can think about, and then we're done with it. And so today we're starting off with this brand new series called Follow-err, because that's kind of the picture of our life, isn't it? I mean, let's think about it here. The word follow simply means to come after in time or order, to move or travel behind. You follow, you're following after something. And if you're familiar at all with Christianity, you know that over and over it's one of the very simple invitations Jesus makes to everyone, an invitation to anybody, and that is simply this: follow me. And those two words had such power in some people's life. He just came up to them and would say, follow me, and he would turn and go, and they would get up and follow him. That they would come after him and move or travel behind. But you know as well as I do, if you've been a follower of Jesus, that there's this second part here, this part, and the err part means to make a mistake, to get it wrong, to blunder, to slip up, to stumble. And I've intentionally put the on the follow part because if your life is like mine, you know that following Jesus is never a perfect step-for-step thing. In fact, following tells you that this is not something you're going to do perfectly. This is a journey more than a destination, because Jesus is always moving. So the question is, where do we follow and how do we follow? And it seemed right that as we begin this year to stop and sort of take a look at our lives. Maybe do some reevaluation. That's kind of what the start of the year is about. And this year is no different. So when you think about your following of Jesus, what's it look like? Is it kind of messy? Does it go real easy, or are there times when it just not only is hard, but you're not so sure that's the step you want to take? Well, over the course of today and the next couple of weeks, we're going to be talking about what's it mean to be a follower of Jesus, to be honest about it, but to try to heed that call, that invitation that goes to all of us every day, to follow me. So before we jump into it, I want to invite you just to bow your heads and let's pray together, all right? Lord, we thank you for the invitation. And for some of us, it has literally changed the course and direction of our lives. It has literally changed our eternity and our forever. And for some of us, even knowing that, we know our steps have not always been perfect. That we haven't always stepped in the exact same footprints of yours. At times we've wandered. At times we've gotten sidetracked. At times we've gotten tired. We've even been scared at times. And all I ask for you today is for you to be here. And for us to know that you're here. And may your presence help us as we've just got done singing. Help us to be brave, because it's what you've made us. So use this time, speak to us, do whatever you need to help us be not just a better follower, but an honest follower. In your name, amen. There is a conversation that oftentimes happens in a relationship. That happens in every romantic relationship that I'm aware of, and it happens in either sometimes in business relationships, but it's one of those conversations that is feared, that is avoided by some. In fact, it's these three letters, DTR. How many of you ever had the DTR conversation? See, some of you don't even know you've had this. You know what DTR stands for? It stands for this. How many of you ever had that conversation now? See, yeah, everybody knows, right? And it's a conversation, Chad. Sometimes people, I mean, I've known guys, not you, Chad, but I've known guys that will run from this. As soon as they feel like the relationship is getting close to, we need to have a talk, that's the answer for, I'm out the door, because I don't want to get this defined. It's that time to say, we need to define what this is going to look like. I mean, are we going to be serious? Are we exclusive? Are we, just having fun? Are we going to take another step? And how big of a step are we taking? Because I'm kind of happy where it's at, and I'm not so sure I want to define the relationship because I'm kind of comfortable where those things are at. And it is the question that always comes up because typically from one, and sometimes from both, but typically from one of the parties because they want to get more clarity because they want to be closer. They want to take that next step. And today, by the way, we're going to have that DTR conversation. So I've asked the guys to lock the doors so nobody can get out. Because we all need to have this. We need to define the relationship. And if you've been a Christian, a follower of Jesus for a long time, you're probably thinking, well, I already know what this is all about. I've already had that conversation. But here's the thing. I read this great statement. You don't have to leave yet. Felipe, don't leave me, man. I'm just messing with it. I'll see you later, all right? But here's the thing that I am convinced of. I want you to write this down. Jesus is trying to interfere in your life. Yeah, only a couple of amens, right? There's a couple, yeah. But that is a true statement. Jesus is trying to interfere in your life. And you need to know that. And that's not a bad thing. That's a real thing, and that's a good thing. And in fact, over and over, if you read through the stories about Jesus, things that were written down about what he did and what he said and how he lived his life, you will see over and over that he continually sort of messes with you. He continually tries to interfere in people's life, but not sort of, I'm going to make life worse. I'm going to put stuff out there and step back and let it just kind of hang out there. And over, he sort of has these mini define the relationship discussions and talks. And here's the challenge for us, especially those of us that have been followers of Jesus. A great statement by this Greek philosopher. It is impossible to teach a man what he thinks he already knows. And if you ever tried to teach somebody who already knows what they're doing, you know how true that statement is. And here's the challenge for us as Christians. Some of us think we already know what the relationship's about. What it's all sort of already been defined. We already know all that stuff. But I can prove to you in your own life, at this moment, as we define the relationship, that that's probably not true for you. Because here's this thing. How many of you remember as a kid playing the game Simon Says? Remember it? Some, if you're too young, you probably, there's not an app for it, I don't think, so you're not real clear. But Simon Says was this thing where you say, Simon Says, raise your right hand. Play along with me, please, this morning. This is a participatory. Right? And we'd say, Simon Says, put your hand down. Simon Says, stand up. Man, you guys are tough. All right. Simon Says, stand up. Please play along with me, humor me. I only have about 8 hours left in a day, so just, all right. Simon Says, sit down, right? And I see you're all happy to sit. Everybody participates now, right? And then at some point, you'd just say, stand up. And if somebody stood up, you'd say, you blew it, you got to go back to the start. It's this whole thing of you follow what it is. And in churches, we have this thing we say Jesus says. But our problem is, in the Jesus says thing, we believe that when Jesus says something, we're supposed to memorize it. We're supposed to learn it. And if I've learned it, everything's great. In fact, we would go to the word disciple, mathetes, which means a learner. And we'd say, I understand what a learner is. A learner is somebody who? That's right, learns. Good crowd today. He learns, right? That's what a learner is. We say, I know what a learner is. Our problem is we look at learning from our day and not from Jesus' time. Because here's what happens for us. We say, I've learned. I've learned this about you, and I've memorized it. Matthew 28, one of the Great Commission. Jesus says, all authority in heaven and earth has been given to participate, me, I'll help you out here. Go therefore, because all authority has been given to me, and make, baptizing them into the name of the, teaching them to obey everything I've commanded you. And the bonus, I am with you even to the end of time. And we've memorized that. But let's ask an honest question. That's a Jesus says thing instead of a Simon says thing. Because how many of you have ever made a disciple? How many of you have ever baptized, been part of that process, whether it's the actual thing or been part of moving somebody into that? In fact, I would bet that the greatest majority of us in this group today, the third option would be the thing we have done the most of. Teaching others what he commanded us to do. Because that's a teaching thing, that's a learning thing. But think about it logically for a second. What would you do? Those of you that have kids, if you don't, maybe it's a coworker you can kind of imagine. What would you do if you told somebody, I want you to go clean out your office or clean up your room? And they left and they came back and said, and you said, how did you do it? And they said to you, I have memorized exactly what you told me. And I've got a bunch of friends coming over this afternoon, and we're going to sit around in a group and talk about what it would look like if I cleaned my room, right? And we would all go, our kids are brighter than that. We're brighter than that. We would know how we would respond, right? But in a church circle, because it's about being learners, we've said, I've learned what Jesus wants. Not always so much done what Jesus wants. And our issue is with this idea of learning. In Jesus' day, there were these guys called rabbis. They were these teachers. And your goal in life was to hook yourself up with not just any rabbi, but one of the good rabbis. One of the popular rabbis, the ones that everybody went, man, he is smart. And to be a follower, to be a disciple, to be a learner of them meant you went and you observed them. Just like Simon says, if Jesus went and sat down, everybody went and sat down. If Jesus said, I'm going to go to the store, and he goes to the store, everybody gets up and goes to the store. If Jesus reads the labels, looks at the nutritional stuff, because apparently Jesus is into that stuff, everybody picks it up, looks at the nutritional stuff. Being a follower, in fact, they had this statement, may you follow your rabbi so closely that his dust, the dust from his feet, covers you. And the idea was that you were just trying to imitate. That wasn't meant to be a learner then. It was to do what Jesus did, to learn from him why he did it and how he did it, and to mimic that. And someplace we have gotten way off on what it means to be a follower of Jesus. See, a disciple of Jesus is simply someone who is intentionally choosing to learn from, follow Jesus in every area of their life. So where's the one place in your life that it's difficult to follow Jesus? Don't everybody answer at one time, all right? But we all know what it is, right? Give me a shake like this. If you don't know where it is, go like this, and I'll give you special attention, all right? But we all, probably most of us right away knew, oops, does he know? You're probably asking, how did he find out, you know? But we all have this area that it's difficult to follow Jesus, and if we're honest. And what do you think he'd point to and say, what about there in your life? Over and over, Jesus says, let me define the relationship for you. This is where I'm at. Follow me. And the great thing about that follow me invitation is that it is an open invitation to anybody. Jesus did something very radical in his day. Other rabbis, they would take, candidates, they'd have them sign up, they'd get their resumes, they'd do them on little practice runs. They wanted the best disciples because it made them look better. If you read the stories about Jesus, Jesus doesn't make up these long lists. He doesn't kind of vet people. He just simply says, hey, follow me, and off he goes. Hey, follow me, and off he goes. And if they get up and follow him, apparently they're part of the disciples, because they've responded to the invitation. I want you to write this down because this is going to blow your mind. A follower of Jesus is someone who, you ready for the definition? This is called dramatic pause, by the way. A follower of Jesus is now, I know that's a little heavy for some of you today. And we make it so complicated. But if you look at how Jesus lived his life and the invitation he makes, that's what he does. He says, follow me. And if they follow him, if they begin that process of learning, if they begin that process of imitating what he does, they just keep moving along. A follower of Jesus is someone who follows Jesus. No more, no less than that. In fact, there's a great story we're going to look at. But I want to remind you again that Jesus is trying to interfere with your life in the best possible way. I don't know who put sticky notes up on a stage, but it's Jason. They're all messed up now, so don't tell him anything, all right? Interferes with your life. And isn't that how Jesus works? Something like that, a little sticky thing, boom, interfere with your life. So here's a great story. We're going to look at just one of, we could pick a lot, but we're just going to go to one story that the Bible records about this. Over in Matthew chapter 8, if you want to follow along, beginning in verse 18, give me a little backstory. Jesus just had a crazy day. He's been healing people. He's been, freeing people. He's been just doing a bunch of stuff. He has held, this day starts off, he gets met by a leper, which everybody kind of kept their distance. Jesus doesn't keep his distance. The guy says, hey, Jesus, if you wanted to, you could make me, you could restore me. And Jesus says, okay, I want to. Next. And he's moving because he's got just this crowd that's following him, and it's getting bigger. He comes up a centurion, a Roman, somebody who's not one of them. The bad guys comes to him and says, hey, Jesus, can you help me out? I got a servant, and, he's not doing well, and he's in terrible shape. And Jesus says, okay, let's go. We'll go to your place, He says, no, Jesus, you just say the word. I understand what it means to be a leader. You just say the word, and that's all it needs. So Jesus says, okay, done. Man, he says, what kind of faith is that? The guy just even believes that. And then Jesus goes, and he comes to Peter's house and finds his mother-in-law sick. And amazingly, Peter apparently asked him to heal his mother-in-law. And he does. And so that's the backstory. We had all these healings, all these kind of amazing things happen. And this is where we pick up. We pick it up where it says, Jesus noticed how large the crowd was growing. For us, that's a good thing, right? A bigger crowd, right? That means we're having bigger impact. That's a good thing. But for Jesus, he wasn't so sure about all these big crowds. And oftentimes, as they got bigger and bigger, he kind of went off and leave. And he says, hey, so when he sees this big crowd going, he instructs the disciple to cross to the other side of the lake. It's the end of the day. Getting towards, dark, and the crowd's getting bigger, and let's get some distance, guys. We need a little break. It's been a busy day. And in the midst of this, as they begin to get into the boats, one of the teachers of religious law says to Jesus, teacher, Jesus, I will follow you wherever you go. Which is a great statement, isn't it? And it sounds like a very genuine statement, and I'm not casting any doubts. There's no question about what this guy's saying. This guy's saying, listen, Jesus, I'm going to follow you wherever you go. You're getting in the boat. I want to go with you, Jesus. To which Jesus says, by the way, foxes have dens to live in. Even birds, they have their nest. But the Son of Man, me, I've got no place to lay my head. Listen, guy, dude, I'm homeless. You see all the celebrity, you see the big crowd, you think I'm going and I'm staying at the nice motels. We're not staying at the Motel 6. We're staying at some fancy place, We're living it up. You think I'm the rock star because I come to town, everybody gathers around me. But that's not quite the picture. Another guy. In fact, this time it says, another of his disciples. A disciple is let's keep that in mind. Another of his followers says to Jesus, Lord, first, let me return home and bury my father. Which is a statement that kind of resonates with us, isn't it? I mean, I want to do this, I want to follow, I want to respond, but not right at this moment. It's not a good time, not quite yet. Give me just a moment, then I'll be in with you. To which Jesus says this amazing statement. Follow me. Follow me. And let the dead bury the dead. And it's an interesting passage, because if you go look at it, all the commentators can't figure out what to do with this. They begin to say, well, let the spiritually dead bury their own, let's do all this kind of stuff. I think Jesus is saying exactly what he means. Because there's nothing in the language that says anything about spiritual dead. It just, same word dead is the same for dead. He just said, let the dead bury the dead. And we may say, well, that's kind of rough, Jesus. I mean, the guy's just asking for a little time, right? Give him a little break, But in that culture, this is where we always have to remember the culture was written in. In that culture, the first son, his responsibility was to take care of the family when dad died. And one of his first orders of business was to bury the father. Had to be done on the day he died. And so what happens is this guy is asking, most likely, hey, Jesus, I got this huge family responsibility. You know all about it. Everybody knows all about it. You know the weight that a firstborn carries. And so I have this responsibility. Let me wait this out when my dad dies. That day I got him in the ground, and then I'm with you, Jesus. But until then, I can't be there with you. To which Jesus says, follow me. Let the dead bury the dead. And off he goes. In fact, it says he gets in the boat and they start across the lake. And apparently it's been a tough day for Jesus, because you'll see in just a second. But as they get out there, the tough day gets even worse, because suddenly this fierce storm comes up. And it strikes the lake and the waves are breaking over the boat. And I don't know if you've ever been out in a boat when the waves start crashing. I've been out in a boat a few different times. I grew up in a big fishing family, and we would go out to the ocean. I've been out in the ocean when it's calm, but when you're like a 12-foot aluminum boat in the middle of the ocean, and you can see everything, and then when the swells come down and you look around, it's like literally like sitting here and looking at the walls around you. It's like all you see is water around you, and then you back up, and then you're down again, and it kind of reminds you how vulnerable and how small you are when you're in this little 12-foot boat in the middle of an ocean, right? But the idea that the waves are literally coming over and lapping into the boat. And they have a few fishermen and Jesus' disciples, and they're going, this is not a good thing. You know it's not a good thing. The fishermen especially know it's not a good thing. To which they go, they find Jesus was sleeping. Which I love that line, Because it's been a tough day. He's exhausted. He done all this stuff, and now he is out. Water splashing around, the boat's rocking, they're yelling and screaming, because that's what people do when the water splashes and stuff comes in. And it says disciples went and wake him up, shouting, Lord, save us, we're going to drown. Which I think is something more like, help, something like that, but it sounds a little like, right? Wake up, Jesus, we're dying, what are you doing? Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, I'm spitting out water because it's, wake up. And Jesus wakes up and he responds and he says, why are you guys so afraid? You guys have so little faith. Where's the faith? I'm in the boat. I mean, it's like watching one of those. How many of you ever watch a movie and you get through the scary part, and like the lead actor or actress, she gets, she's in a bad situation, looks like she's going to die, but she's not going to die. You ever been in that kind of movie? And you go, it's supposed to be scary, but, we're only half an hour in the movie. It's still got another hour. She's going to be fine, right? Jesus says, listen, guys, I'm in the boat. We're not at the end of the movie. We still got time. Things are going to be fine here. And these are his followers. And he says, what? Where's your faith in this whole thing? He gets up, and he rebuked the wind and waves, and suddenly, there was this great calm. Such an interesting statement. Because if you've ever been out on a lake when a storm hits, get a little lightning and thunder and get some waves rolling, it can be a little kind of scary, You begin to, get religious real quick. You get real safety conscious. You put on your life vest because you haven't had them on all day, You hold on and you're just trying to get to the shore, and everything's bouncing around. And, we got engines now, so we floor it. You're just trying to get there. And even if the storm blows too fast and it stops, you know if you've ever been out in lake that the waves, even when it stops, they're still crashing, right? Because things have been disturbed. But when Jesus stands up and he rebukes, he basically says, this is what he says, stop it! And everything stops. Not just the wind, but the waves that are crashing on the shore that would continue to crash on the shore because things have been disturbed. Everything goes, psh. I mean, that's impressive. Because it's not just the wind, it's the water, it's the physics. It's this whole thing, and it doesn't make sense to us, but that's the point of it. It doesn't make sense to us. And I love how they respond. That's kind of an understatement, right? Yeah, What else do you write? Because some of these are fishermen, and they know that, waves, you go by in a boat, and there's waves, and, waves stay around for a long time. And everything is smooth sailing now. And they ask themselves this question. Who is this, I mean, they all kind of look at each other like, what do we do with this, I mean, even the wind and the waves obey him. And it's this great story that is not just about one point. It's a story from Jesus' life. It's a snapshot. It's not a teaching us to say, this is the point or that's the point. This is a day in the life of Jesus. It's busy. It's crazy. He's got people asking him questions. He's making invitations. He's doing something. He just keeps saying, follow me, we're going. Yes, follow me, we're going. Follow me, we're going. And then they have this whole thing, and then everything kind of blows up. And he says, what are you guys so worried about? This is just follow me. Everything's going to work out. Just follow me. And Jesus is trying to interfere with your life because he was trying to interfere with their lives. And he did a really good job of it. So much so that they sat in awe going, what did we get ourselves into? We love all the healing. I mean, we've seen, great healing today. We've heard him say some great words. And we've seen him do stuff for other people, but all of a sudden, he's done something for us. And it changes when he does something for you. It interferes with how you see things, how you think about things. See, a follower of Jesus is someone who follows Jesus wherever. The first guy says, listen, Jesus, I'm going to follow you wherever you go. And Jesus says, you need to think about what that really means. And I wonder if the guy doesn't at the start kind of say, well, that was really, Jesus, sort of a figurative statement that I'll follow you. Because you know how that works, right? At times we all sort of say, oh, yeah, Jesus, I'm in. Well, I wasn't being real specific about what in meant. I'm not really sure I want to be in there, but I'm in, right? So where is the one place? Honestly, where's the one place you find it difficult to follow Jesus? Maybe in your relationships? Maybe with how you handle money? Maybe with your anger or your mouth and how you talk and think and process about people? But where is it? Because a follower of Jesus is someone who follows Jesus. A follower of Jesus is always somebody who follows Jesus whenever. Because we understand the second guy when he says, listen, Jesus, I'm there, but just give me a moment. I gotta get this figured. I got this responsibilities. I got something very important, and you understand this is important. And there's something that resonates with us. Says, yeah, we understand that there's an important thing here. Kind of a New Year's statement, isn't it? Because we all kind of, even if you're kind of pushed resolutions away, we all kind of love kind of the new year, a fresh start. We kind of dream of the possibilities. We know they're not going to be reality because we've been at this long enough. I mean, this is when health clubs, gyms make their money the whole year. You know that, right? I mean, they will sell so many memberships. If everybody showed up, there is no possible way for them all to fit in the building. But they don't have to worry about that. Because common sense tells them, you know what? Everybody's not going to show up. There's probably 20% of the people that sign up on January 1st aren't even going to show up on January 2nd. In fact, they probably left on January 1st. They go, I'm going to go home and grab some sweats, some tennis shoes, and be back, my sweatband on, and be all ready to go. Get home, go buy something. Oh, man, a McDonald's, man, I'm going to stop there. There's a shop. And they don't even come back. There's 20% off the books. There's another, of the newcomers, there's another probably 60% that show up for a few days here and there. They maybe last a couple of weeks, but man, it hurts to go do that kind of stuff. And so they're out, right? And you get down to maybe 10 or 15% that maybe stick it out and maybe are able to go longer. And we all have this, how long, but the question really has to be to all of us, how long have we been saying tomorrow? How long have we sort of been putting off this whole, what it really, all the way following Jesus kind of thing? Because there's a temptation. There is a real temptation to treat our relationships with Jesus like our resolutions to be healthier every year. And how many times have you said, I'm going to start the year, I'm going to start eating healthier right after I finish these great deep-fried chimichangas. And then there's a piece of chocolate cake, and it would be a shame to waste that. I know it's a little big, but I think it's still categorized as a piece. We kind of say, I'm gonna, but, or it's like, you go to bed saying, I'm gonna wake up early tomorrow, get up and exercise. And that stupid alarm goes off the next morning. Whap! And the next night you go to bed saying, tomorrow for sure. Tomorrow for sure. How long have you been saying tomorrow? And the real honest question is, that if you've been saying tomorrow, and if you said tomorrow yesterday, that today was yesterday's tomorrow. So today would be the day that you were going to do it, right? Listen, Jesus is trying to interfere with your life. And I want you to know that. We're going to spend the next few weeks not talking so much about the interference part, but just about how God sees you and sees those who are follow-errs of His. People that don't always do it perfect, and that's not what He's looking for. He's simply looking for people who will follow Him. And when He moves, they're supposed to move. And when He does this, they're supposed to do that. But here's maybe the most important question I can ask you today. Based on that Jesus is trying to interfere with your life, and that's simply this. And that's a question only you can answer. And it's not so much a question of saying, will you at this moment say, I'm going to follow Jesus for the rest of my life? Because that's never the question of Jesus. In fact, it's more of an invitation from Jesus when He says, follow me. Follow me. And so the question to you and the question to me is, will we? And with that in your mind, I want to invite you just to bow your heads for just a moment and just bow your heads for a moment for me. And this is all just between you and Jesus and me because I still have my eyes open. But is it your desire? Are you willing to let Him interfere with your life as we begin this year and as we go through this year? And are you willing to follow Him? If you are, I want you just to kind of raise your hand wherever you're at. All right? All right. And Father, you see our hands. But more important than our hands, you see our hearts and our minds. You see our feebleness. You see our strength. You see our desires. And I pray that you would connect those desires with the reality. That you would come in and interfere in our lives. And we would always see that interference as an invitation from you to follow you. And can we help us to trust you in those steps? In your name, amen. Hey, Pastor Ann, before I get there, I want you to read this with me. To help you, the kingdom of God. Yeah, we're going to get better as we go through over the course of time. You're going to be hearing a lot about this. This is sort of as our pastors have got together and been working on this for about the last 6 months. This has kind of become our commitment as pastors of this church. That's our commitment to you, is to help you live out the kingdom of God wherever you are.